Majority Leader, those new glasses? No?
No, these are my computer glasses.
Okay. I got it. These are your readers.
Only for the blue screen.
For the blue screen. For the blue screen. Got it. Got it.
I am not there yet for readers. I don't intend to get there anytime soon.
So these are my computer ones right here.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
I like yours better though.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm overdue for more for new ones.
Yeah, I gotta do my appointment anyway. I think it's past 5:30. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can get ready to go. All right. We have everybody. All right. We're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call to order this Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee meeting for today, March 21st, 2023. My name is Councilman TJ Clark. I am the chair of this committee and also to the majority leader for the City Council. We have Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon, who is on, Councilman Nick LeBron, who is a voting member, and Councilman Josh Mitchum, who is a voting member as well. And we are joined by our Corporation Counsel's Office, Attorney Natalie Fiola Guerreri. And we have our Assistant Chief of Police, Kenny Howell, who's representing the police department, Sergeant Chris Mastriani, and Mr. Anthony Carter, who is standing in for Susan Webster, our Director of Emergency Services and Technology. We are broadcasting live from HPA-TV.org, channel 96 on Comcast, and channel 6032 on Frontier. And we have a pretty jam-packed agenda. And also, too, we have just been joined by our Chief of Fire, Rodney Barco. We're going to start off with a presentation from Anthony Carter for Emergency Services and Technology at this time.
Good evening, everyone. And Anthony Carter, standing in for Sue Webster and S&P. Going to present some statistics that Sue Webster put together for you tonight. I'll share my screen with you now. Can everyone see the screen?
No, we can't. There we go.
Got it now? One second. All right, that should be it now. Our first slide goes over police dispatch calls for service. Over the last 12 months, there's been 121,864 calls for service, with the high month being the month of May. The next topic is our fire suppression dispatch calls. And for the last 12 months, that's set at 21,436 calls for service. And the high month for that 12-month period was the month of October. Our next area is fire medical dispatch calls. And that's 7,724 calls for service, the high month being December. And finally, our emergency medical service or EMS dispatch calls was set at 36,568 calls for service.
Thank you, Mr. Carter, for your presentation. Do any of my council colleagues have any questions for Mr. Carter? I have one quick question. As it relates to the HART response team, that is information that you all don't track, correct?
That is correct. I don't have that information with me tonight. Maybe Sue might have more insight into that when she gets back.
All right, I think it will be great if we can be provided some through one of our public safety officials, if we can be provided with some information regarding the HART response team. I know that we have inquired as to how many calls of service have gone through ES&T that will require the heart response team to arrive on scene to interact with a person that needs assistance. So if you can get that to us, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will take care of it.
Thank you. Councilman LeBron?
No, through you, Majority Leader, just a FYI, they have presented their data at the Health and Human Service because the response is a human service response. But so there is a PowerPoint on deck. So just trying to make it an easy as lift as possible for ESP and for the committee.
Thank you. Would love for Ms. Patricia McIntyre to do a presentation before this committee, since it's twofold. It's a Health and Human Services issue. Well, I say response, and also to public safety for that matter. So we will reach out to contact Ms. McIntyre to be invited for a presentation next month. Any other questions? Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for Mr. Carter? Seeing none, okay. Next, we have our Chief of Fire, Chief Rodney Barco.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me on again. As I stated in our last Quality of Life Public Safety meeting, we are transitioning from our ESO and Firehouse data to a new records management system called Advanced Fire Data. So we've been diligently working with MHIS and ES&T to have our data ported over to this new records management system. So some of the data won't be as informative as our last records management system, but again, we had no choice because those two records management system was becoming obsolete.
Thank you, Chief. So how are you all monitoring certain situations and calls for service that you would normally monitor with the system, with fire?
So we still gather data. It's just not as easy to extrapolate. I'm not sure if you can see my screen right now.
We can.
All right, so some data we are able to pull in relationship to the neighborhoods and calls for service, but the numbers we don't have the numbers as accurate quite yet, but I do have some data to present to you. As you can see through this first slide, this is our incidents by hour from Sunday to Saturday for a 24-hour period. And you can see in the left column, like on the 23rd, we had, at the 23rd hour, we had 81 incidents. At 2200, that's 10 o'clock at night, we had 96 incidents. And these are the number of incidents per day throughout the week. For Sunday, we had 358, Monday, 337. So top 5 calls for service during that month was EMS calls. The second number 2 call was medical assists, and the third was service calls other, with water problems being fourth and no incident found upon arrival. Incidents by neighborhoods as it relates to the Hartford Fire Department, we had a total of 2,323 incidents for the month of February. And as you can see, Asylum Hill, Berry Square, and downtown had the most calls for service. For EMS calls for service for the month of February, we had a total of 1,471. Again, with EMS calls other than motor vehicle accidents and medical assists, rounding off the top 2 with 782 and 421 calls for service. Rescue calls for the month of February, we had a total of 24 calls with removal from stalled elevators. That's always our top call in terms of rescue for the month of February, and every other month an extrication from motor vehicles. Hazardous material calls for the month of February, We had a total of 7 calls. One was 6 of them were gas leaks, and the other one was combustible liquids. Other that could be anything from fuel stored in a basement or leaking from a vehicle, or something other than what's supposed to be in a residential home. So these are all the fires for the month of February. We had a total of 37. 13 of those was vehicle fires, and we had 6 structure fires, 5 outside rubbish trash fires, and 5 outside rubbish fires other. Our service calls for the month of February, total of 403. Water problems, police matters, smoke odor removals, things of that nature. Fire alarm calls for the month of February, we had a total of 237. Alarms activated unintentional with a total of 86, and smoke detector activations unintentional, total of 36, and alarm sounded due to malfunctions, a total of 19. This next category is unidentified calls for the month of February. We had a total of 144. No incident found upon arrival. That's when we get dispatched for either EMS or smoke odor or any other type of incident that a citizen may call in. And once we arrive to that scene, there's nothing to be found. We generally check 2-block radius for whatever the called in incident may be. And if we don't find anything, that's how we code that call. These are structure fires for the month of February as related to the fire stations. As you can see here, like the number 0 in the right-hand column would go down to engine 1 or engine 16's area. So you can tell up in the Blue Hills area, they had 3 fires for the month of February. And I'll send a copy of this to the council after this presentation. Any questions or comments? So some additional information for the council is that we did hire 5 new cadets, and 3 of those cadets were actual explorers. 2 of the cadets came from outside. We've been slowly making promotions when we do get the certified list from HR. We just recently had a captain of training, captain of suppression, and lieutenant of suppression and lieutenant of training test. So once those results come in, we'll be making those promotions, and we're due to have a ceremony sometime during the warmer months, because we have a plethora of people who just got promoted. Again, we promoted 4 new fire marshals. As you all know, the city is building rapidly, so those permits and inspections need to be completed, hence the need for more marshals. Other than that, the rest of the department is doing well. Everyone is looking forward to the warmer weather, and I am looking forward for the budget process to be over. Any questions?
Thank you, Chief. You can stop sharing your screen, please, so we can get a full view. Thank you for your presentation. Any questions for Chief Barco? Saying none.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Through you, and going back to your suggestion with the heart team. So, Chief, how are you, Chief? I hope all is well.
Yes,
Yes. So I saw in the Asylum Hill area having the highest incidences of response. On my street in particular, there seems to be a frequent response to a certain building. Now, it could be different residences in the building, but I have a feeling that, and what I've heard from folks in the community, it's someone that constantly calls. Now, without knowing the details of that frequency and if it's health related, like what it is, would that be an occasion? Let's say it was an occasion for a heart team response, and that person would need a different response. How would that interface work, Chief?
Well, thank you for that question, Councilman. Certainly, we do have individuals in the city that require frequent response from, either HPD, fire, or EMS. And since the inception of the heart team, we're able to refer that person for follow-up services. And occasionally when our men and women of Hartford Fire Department encounter individuals who may need further assistance than what we can provide, that aspect of that particular resource has come in handy for us. We do include that in the incident, even though we've been there multiple times. It does help the men and women in how to handle certain individuals or certain properties. In the case of it not being an issue for the heart team, maybe it might be an issue for housing code enforcement or HPD, but we definitely work closely with L&I, housing code enforcement, blight, and HPD to remedy any sort of public property issues. Just yesterday, we had a meeting, I believe it was Gillette Street, for a number of properties that we've been having issues with, and try to come up with a fair and equitable solution to everything. But, to go back to your question, yes, the heart team has been instrumental in providing follow-up services for those individuals who need it.
Thank you. And just one more question, Majority Leader, in response to that. And Mr. Carter with EST, let's say if someone, I don't know what the term is being used, but someone who calls with regularity, a frequent, I've heard other towns use frequent flyer. I don't want to use any condescending language in any means, but someone who calls with a certain level of frequency. Is that flagged at the EST level to maybe send out a differential response as opposed to fire? Because we know and the consistent and the pattern of the type of phone calls and those type of things where we would send out the heart team explicitly for that response?
With regard to being flagged, there are certain, I'll use the term frequent flyers, we call regularly. And that might be either for a police response, a fire response. Protocol here is to treat each one of those calls as though they were separate in many ways, so that we don't fall short in our response by making assumptions.
Right.
I think that's the position we take on it for the most part.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councilman LeBron, there, from a fire perspective, there are some individuals that require, that may have some mental health issues or just medical issues that become combative. So we do relay that information to EST, not the individual per se, but the address that the individual resides in, because sometimes they're not always at that particular address, but they're in that area. So we have EST make notes that, hey, if we go to this particular address, you might need HPD presence because the individual may become combative, right? Or we definitely would like the heart team to respond first, and we'll stage in case something goes wrong, and we'll intervene. But a lot of that recommendation does come from folks like HPD and fire in the field as well.
That's fantastic, because I think when we were, and through you, Majority Leader, just as a comment, when we were researching national models, there were different approaches, but one of the problems of the log jams that continue to happen nationally was the the inability to collaborate interagency, and it sounds like we're collaborating at the highest level, so it's wonderful to hear.
Right, thank you, Councilman. You're all set? All right, any other questions for Chief Barco? Seeing none, Chief, thank you for your presentation. Up next is Assistant Chief Howell from the Hartford Police Department.
Good evening, Council, and happy spring.
Happy
Last
spring.
year. Thank you. May I share my screen?
Yes, you may.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, are we waiting on something?
We're waiting on, there we go.
Ah.
That's what we're waiting on. I didn't want to rush him. I knew it was coming. Take it away, Chief.
That is such a beautiful slide, through you, Chair.
Yes, HPD has stepped it up.
Yes, look at that.
It's beautiful.
I love it.
I'm about to screenshot it and put it in my background.
Very vivid.
I think the software upgrade was on PD side and fire department got slighted, looks like.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, my tech guy was here, and then you press that
All right.
to come off of it. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. You know, it looks good though, right?
Beautiful.
Okay, so again, thank you for adding some background conversation while we were handling this technical difficulty. So I want to present to you the crime stats, the shooting, incidents, arrests, firearms and narcotic seizures, auto theft arrests, and traffic statistics. Okay, so this is from this week's CompStat, which reflects last week. As you can see, the aggravated assault other is down overall from last week, and year to date, the aggravated assault with firearms are also down. The sexual assault, we had none last week. But we did have an increase overall. These are known perpetrators. Robbery other, we have an increase in robbery with firearms. We have a decrease for the current week, but an increase overall year to date. What's really getting us is this auto theft we have 171% increase current week, and overall 69% increase. Robberies and larcenies, we have decreases. So the auto theft, I'll discuss a little bit later, but there are issues that we have identified that has made the numbers go up. As far as homicides, it says here 3, we have 4, but we had 8 last year at this time. So we are down regarding homicides. Shooting incidents, we are down 26%. So that's a better number. This is another way to look at the data. Again, we have 4 homicides, 17 non-fatal shootings. The red reflects homicides. So we had 2 in January and 2 in March. And the blue are the non-fatal shootings. On the bottom are the incident circumstances. We have 75% are unknown. We have 10% that are drug related. Personal disputes, we have 5%. We have 5% that are instant disputes and 5% that are domestic related. These are homicides and shootings from January to December. Pretty much what I just said, just a different way to look at it. So homicide arrests for 2023 year to date, we have 3. So that's, as you all know, we have a high solvability rate. I believe last year we were around 76% or so, or the year before, I'm sorry. And these 3 arrests, I don't know if it's for this year, I think it's for last year, but those numbers will be going up drastically because we have a higher than national solvability rate. We have 0 cold case arrests. We have 1 new conviction on a 2008 murder. We have 2 new arrest warrants. For non-fatal shootings, we had 19 shootings year to date. We have 1 active warrant and multiple cases awaiting laboratory results. 4 additional 2022 arrest warrants obtained. So the Detective Bureau is doing a very good job with not only investigating these cases, but a lot of the cases from the last several years have been going to trial. So they've had to do trial preparations also. Here we have the firearms seized year to date. We have 73 total. We have 70 handguns, 2 rifles, 2 shotguns, assault weapons, none, ghost guns, 6. And there you see the comparisons from 2021 to 2022. There's a visual depiction of the many weapons and some narcotics that we seized. The VIN division has seized 6,866 bags of fentanyl, which translates into 4,416 grams of fentanyl, 399 grams of crack, 2,601 grams of cocaine, and about $45,000 in money seized. And we have 15 search warrants. So that's year to date. As you can see, the numbers comparison for 2020, 21, and 22. So these numbers will likely increase. The stolen motor vehicles arrests, we have 29. So the motor vehicles, what we're seeing a problem with, if you look down to the left, the make of the vehicles stolen are Hyundais and Kias. So we have said in our comms that, in our public comms that these two vehicles have had problems with starting the ignitions. All you have to do is have a USB, and it's easy to access the car and steal the car. So Hyundai and Kia are, I believe they're doing a recall, and they're trying to mitigate this problem. This is driving our stolen vehicle numbers up. So hopefully they'll mitigate, and we'll start seeing those numbers go down soon. Here we have traffic statistics. We've done 2,535 stops. We've done traffic, the traffic division stops are 1,400, approximately 1,400. We issued approximately 1,105 infractions, and the traffic division issued out of those infractions 1,015. So the traffic division is doing a lot of the traffic stops, which is of course the division focused on traffic violations. Here we have stolen vehicles recovered, 17. And here is the breakdown. We have 265 tickets that were given out for speeding, cell phone use, 162, seatbelts, 102, stop signs, 149, and other traffic, well, traffic control signal, which is running a red light, 171, and other violations, which can be a variety of things, 358 of those. Oh, and that's the presentation. I just want to add that April 3rd, we're starting a class of new recruits, and there will be 14 new recruits starting on that day. 11 are males, 3 are females. So we can't wait for them to join our family. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Council President Rosado, you have your hand raised.
I'm gonna lower my hand. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Chief, we've noticed an increase of shootings taking place in the city. Is there any correlation as to why these increase of shootings are occurring so early into the year?
Well, typically, well, this year has been, as you know, has not been a normal winter. So there's pros and cons to that. The weather has been relatively moderate. So we've starting to see a little more uptick because a lot of it, has to do with the weather change and this moderate winter we've had. So that's a contributing factor to it. We're well aware of it, and we are deploying resources accordingly to try to mitigate some of those shootings.
Okay, thank you. I know we're coming upon April, and I think this is always a concern from the council, which is regarding the summertime plan, and as we are approaching, as the weather looks to be breaking, and we are fingers crossed coming out of the winter season. Has there been, or is there some type of plan in place for crime prevention to address the summer month issues we are expecting?
Sorry about that. Yes, absolutely. We try not to initiate the plans too early because it requires a lot of resources, and we try to give, we're short personnel, so we try to give weight to initiate the plan because we know when we do initiate the plan, a lot of cops will be working more than they would like. So we start it we wait as long as we can to start it. But we absolutely have a plan in place, and that should be coming out as the weather gets warmer.
You have kind of a ETA as to when the council can be briefed on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The next meeting, we would likely have initiated it or about to. So we definitely will have a timeline by the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Council President?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Chief, could we possibly, the council body, get that plan before it's presented in committee in case we have any questions?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I have a question on one of your slides. I think it was the one that you reported on murder rates. When you're saying that you are waiting for lab, is that the state lab, and do they have a backlog?
Yes,
Usually, what's the turnaround time?
Yes. Yeah, they have a backlog that has it could be weeks, it could be more than weeks, but we have preliminary. We're able to do preliminary analysis to most of the time obtain arrest warrants and so forth, but there's a backlog with the state to solidify that evidence so that we would have more of a solid case. So yes, there is a backlog, and it is the state, but like I said, we do have preliminary means to at least know what type of weapon was used and so forth. And we can kind of be guided towards the direction of where we need to go. But again, we would like to have the in-depth analysis from the state to solidify the warrants.
Thank you for that. And so the gun buyback program, is that something that you guys schedule during the year, or is that something that comes up randomly?
No, we do schedule it. I'm sure Sergeant Mastriani is cringing. It's a lot of work to do, and we do it typically twice a year. So we should have something coming up soon, and then towards the end of the year.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Thank you for this detailed report.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Welcome.
Thank you, Majority Leader. So I know you said you're going to give us details about the summer plan, so I don't want to keep hammering on that, but I have sort of a more general question about, and quite possibly a stupid question about this sort of the idea of a summer plan, which is, I guess, my understanding of what the police department does is sort of always to have a plan to be fighting crime, right? That's what y'all do. Summer, spring, winter, fall. Do you have any like comparative data? Like, are there cities that don't do a summer plan, and you can sort of say, how does that make a difference? Like, what does it mean to have a summer plan other than like what you do in general?
Yeah, so well, typically we call it a summer plan, but it's an enhancement plan, right? So during the colder months, crime naturally decreases because people are indoors and so forth. So we can end the summer plan or enhancement plan because we don't need that many cops out there. But unfortunately, when the good weather hits, we have to increase, and it's very labor intensive. It has cops, in the traffic unit doing overtime. We have other units going out on weekends, staying out late and so forth. And we are currently down a good amount of officers. So if we were to do it year round, it would cause probably a negative effect on the well-being of an officer. So it's almost like giving somewhat of a break because of the colder weather. And when we have this mild winter like we had, we don't come too much off the summer plan. We back away, but because we're trying to make sure that we adequately mitigate any of these incidents of violence we don't go all the way down to regular patrol when it's moderate as such. So you will see an enhancement. To answer your question, everyone should have, so we always have a plan, right? But when it gets warm weather occurs, you can bet New Haven, Bridgeport, Waterbury has a plan to deal with the uptick in violence toward during
So in essence, if I'm hearing you right, it's like you're just deploying more cops, putting more folks on the street during that period. So that's the general gist of the plan.
Well, yes, more cops on the street and doing other intelligence work to develop arrest warrants and so forth. And yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions from my committee members?
No.
All right. Chief, thank you very much for your presentation.
Welcome.
Next up, item number 4 is a resolution by Council President Rosado to create and implement a comprehensive crime prevention strategy, which is item 6.2 on the November 12th, 2022 agenda. Council President.
So yes, Mr. Chair, once again, I'm going to postpone this item. I've been in conversations with Chief Doty and also with Mayor Bonin. A lot of the items that I have in there have already been started or have been implemented. So I'm going to make a motion to postpone this item until the next quality of life meeting.
Motion has been made by Council President to postpone item number 4. It's been seconded by Councilman Mitchell. Thank you. Any discussion on the item? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor of postponement indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it. It's unanimous. This item is postponed until the next committee meeting. Item number 5, a resolution by Councilman LeBron and former Councilman Sanchez regarding facial recognition technology, which was as recent as item 7.1 on the January 23rd, 2023 agenda. Councilman LeBron.
Can I just interrupt
Yeah.
and ask
Hi, Dave. Sorry, I
Assistant Chief
have
Howell to stop
bothered you. I
sharing
was
his
trying
screen?
to locate Adam from my office.
Hey, thank you. I was looking forward to seeing the background still. That's okay. So go ahead, Councilman.
So I'm sorry, did Councilman make them? I kind of got distracted there.
No, he was asking for no distractions at all.
Okay, all right, it's all good. So I believe that the wording that is now uploaded and on the agenda is the correct wording that was, I wouldn't say approved, but agreed upon and with both HPD side and our corporation council. So I think that we are in a position to approve.
Yes, Councilman.
I want to double check on that because I looked on the Civic web, before the meeting, and my understanding was that the change that had been pushed for by HPD and Corporation Council was to take out the language around probable cause. Now, I looked at it before this meeting and that language was still there. Now, I like that language. So if that's what we're voting on, I'm happy. But I want to make sure we're on the same page because my understanding was that that was the language that HPD and Corp Council wanted out. So I want to make sure we're all dealing with the same documents.
So barring an email was sent out to you, Mr. Chair.
You may proceed.
An email was sent out to both all council and the town clerk with the appropriate language that was agreed upon by HPD and Corporation Council. Forgive me for my inability to comprehend because there have been multiple iterations. What I will say is that I can't keep up with them. There's just so many. What I will say is that we sent out the final round that was agreed upon by Corporation Council an HPD. Rather, the town clerk uploaded the wrong documentation. This resolution shouldn't be held up by an error on anyone's behalf. It has been under in this committee since, I believe, June, and has faced a lot of oversight and revisions and those type of things. So if what we see on the civic web is not a reflection of what the updated is, the civic web is only a tool, right? And isn't the official documentation. So the civic web does have errors and flawed because it's run by humans. So, and that's okay. And so the latest iteration that went out, that I saw and that went out, was the one that was directly copied from Corporation Council and sent out to everyone.
I would concur that the language that strikes the usage of the wording of probable cause is not the accurate resolution that is before this committee. I have confirmed that with Corporation Counsel and Chief Porter. So I am, having read the resolution, confer with them. I'm comfortable with the language that has struck in the word for probable cause, which is before this committee this evening. So yes, Council President.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm going too quick, but I'd like to make a motion to send this back to council with a favorable recommendation, since we've had so many discussions on this.
I was just getting ready to entertain a motion. So motion has been made. I see you, Councilman. Motion has been made by Council President Rosado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LeBron. Any discussion? Councilman Mishta.
Thank you. So I'm part this, the first two things. First, I just want to clarify, in case anyone's watching who looked on Civic Web, what we're talking about, what you see on Civic Web is that basically we would strike not the last, the first and second resolved clauses that you see on Civic Web, which say facial recognition technology, if adapted, is to be used as an investigative tool only, and identification through facial recognition technology is not probable cause to arrest. If I just say that so that people know what we're talking about. And then, so that was my first point, just as sort of clarification for the, I'm sure, hundreds, if not thousands of people watching live. But then
there are millions that are watching.
Right.
Millions.
The adoring fans, Quality of Life and Public Safety Committee. I do have a comment on this, which is that I like the language that we had before. I think the language you see web, which is not what we're voting on, actually had some teeth to it, because it would seem to direct the police department not to make an arrest solely on the basis of a facial recognition match. Now that is something, right? That is telling the police department, you got to follow up, you got to go do the next thing, which I know they mostly do, but that is a substantive recognition of the fallibility of facial recognition technology. Without that, all we're saying is, well, facial recognition technology, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's it, right? Like, we're not really changing the operations of the city, and we're not protecting anyone from a wrongful arrest. And I guess I would just ask Corp Counsel, both Corp Counsel and whoever from the police who's here feels like answering, why did you push for the change? What was wrong with the language that's on Civic Web now? Through your chair.
I'm going to say I'm not 100% positive, but I think what the discussion was the probable cause belonged in our policy, the department's policy on the use of facial rec, and not in this resolution, so that our policy would reflect those statements, the policy governing our use of it and what we can do with it, but it wasn't. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it belonged more in our policy than the resolution on probable causes to make an arrest.
Let me, if I can, if you don't mind, Chairman, if I could just follow up on that. Is it in the policy now?
We do not have a policy, so I think this resolution forces us to create a policy that would govern the use of this. So currently, we do not have that product or anything like it, and we don't have a policy. And again, I may not be 100% accurate on what the discussion that preceded removing it, but I believe that was part of it.
Councilman Bishop, I think that this is something too, can be sent to the Police Accountability Review Board to take up with the police department leadership in trying to craft a well-rounded policy behind facial recognition technology and the uses of it.
I guess my concern is if we don't have those resolves, what are we doing here? This is a resolution without substance. I mean, it feels like we've done something and we've done nothing. Right? Why don't we order the police department to generate a policy that says that they won't make arrests, they won't rely on this as probable cause? Like what's the point of it?
In this discussion, I would direct that question to Councilman LeBron, since he is the maker of the resolution, if he chairs to entertain this. But just remember, we do have a motion on the floor.
Absolutely. So, in response to you, Councilman Mixon, I think the concern initially is that facial recognition as a technology is a tool that is skewed, that isn't perfect. And so what the hopes of this resolution is to focus on is to give assurance to the people that we serve, our constituents in the city of Hartford, and also the protection, not protection, but allowance of police, so that we're not prone to any kind of litigation or anything of that nature, that we're going to use software that is accurate and that software that is being in the highest degree that we use at the HPD. So that's the goal, is to provide as much transparency as possible. There are many facial recognition systems that are out there. Some are very flawed and skewed.
If I could, and I won't belabor the point, but I guess my concern is that this resolution does not put any constraints on what system we use, how the police use it. So if what we're trying to do is give assurances to the people and protect them, we're not doing that.
Well, I think, if you a lot of times, through you, Mr. Chair.
All right, this is
Yeah.
the last response.
Yeah,
We
last
can move
response. Oftentimes, councilmen make them as council people, and what I've learned is that we often narrow in on the resolve clause. But if you look at the whereas clause, it provides a history and recognition of the inefficiencies of the software itself. And so where I would point to you at is to look at the resolve clause and not just focus, to look at the whereas clause and not just primarily focused on the resolve clause.
Okay.
Well, I'm a no then.
All right, save that for the roll call. Any other discussion on this item? All right, hearing or saying none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposals?
No.
We have one. The ayes have it. This item is passed. Back to council with a favorable recommendation. Thank you very much for the debate, gentlemen. That's what policy is all about. All right, next item, last item of the evening, item number 6, Mayor Brunner, with a company resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant award under the Project Safe Neighborhoods grant program from the Office of the United States Attorney, item 3.1 on the March 13th, 2023 agenda. Do we have anybody from the administration that would like to discuss this?
From the police side, are we asking, or?
Yes.
Okay, Chief, I do have, I wrote that solicitation, what the intentions were for that grant, if you would like me to speak.
Yes.
All right, so that grant included two different purchases within it. It's a pretty simple, and I'm gonna show you something real quick. Give me one sec here. I wasn't 100% ready. Okay, I'll do this real quick because I know it's getting late. In the PSN, the Project Safe Neighborhood Grant, we use this every year to buy. They're very small grants between $20,000 to $25,000, and we utilize them usually to buy some small pieces of technology or pay some subscription costs on what we already have. For this one, the solicitation was to purchase the Vigilant commercial LPR data. Vigilant license plate reader commercial data is data from tow trucks, parking authorities, repossession trucks all over the country, get fed into this one database. Where that comes up big in our investigations is a quick example of the girl that got hit at Trinity. I blocked it out because nobody needs to see that over and over again, but the student from Trinity who got hit by the motor vehicle killed her and then evaded. That vehicle left behind a license plate, a part of the grill. On our city C4 cameras, we were actually able to pick up that vehicle earlier in the day, which is seen on the bottom, and we were able to get a license plate for that vehicle. When we ran some history on a license plate here in the city, we really didn't get much. We didn't get any addresses. We didn't get any really hits. We did call on a favor from the National Insurance Crime Bureau, who have Vigilant commercial LPR data, asked them to run that license plate. When they did, it came back to an address in New Haven, Connecticut. This all happened within minutes. It came back to an address in New Haven. We called New Haven PD. They actually located the car. You can see there was missing the grill, missing the plate. Huge piece of evidence. We were able to seize that car. We were actually able to interview a neighbor there, and we just made an arrest on that case. The investigators stated, obviously, that recovering that vehicle was the only way they solved that case. It actually had two pieces of DNA from two different individuals and prints inside that car that led to the arrest. So to make a long story short is we get the car, we get the license plate. We have no history on that license plate. We run it through that commercial data. It came back to a repo truck that actually scanned it, driving past the house in New Haven, Connecticut. Send New Haven police there within minutes, and they get that vehicle. So we were looking to utilize this grant to purchase that subscription to commercial LPR data all over the country to really help us speed up some of our investigations. Like I said, we do call the National Insurance Crime Bureau. Sometimes we kind of call on a favor to get that data, but if we had it here in our crime center, we think it would just make us faster and more efficient, and we could do it more often. This is a second example. We had a homicide outside of French's liquor store 2 summers ago. There was a stabbing in front of French's liquor store. Again, I'm not going through all this, but just to let you know that we did capture that vehicle on our city C4 cameras. We got the license plate. Again, couldn't really find much history of it, but when we ran it through the Vigilant commercial data, a tow truck had driven by it on a street 2 streets over from where the homicide happened. We sent investigators over there, and they actually found the suspect in the car with the murder knife still sitting in the driveway. We made an arrest. So we had a homicide arrest about an hour from the killing to arrest with the murder weapon, all because of a commercial license plate hit at an address here in the city. So those are just 2 examples of how that technology is used. The second item we're looking to buy through the Project Safe Neighborhood Grant was an item called Star Chase. It's kind of used already throughout the country and a lot of places here in Connecticut. Newington PD has installed this on all their cars. So as in New Haven PD actually just signed a big contract with them. We're just looking to buy one little unit as kind of like a test. What this does is it deploys a GPS unit to the back of a vehicle. It's like high, like warm, sticky glue. You deploy the GPS upon trying to stop a stolen motor vehicle. Obviously, we saw motor vehicle theft is up 69% right now. The apprehension of a occupied stolen motor vehicle has become one of the hardest arrests to make right now. People are eluding police, they're driving through barriers. This is leading to a lot of crashes, high-speed pursuits. This product was designed to really attach a GPS to the vehicle instantly. It comes up live on a map. We can follow that vehicle to a stop somewhere to get rid of the vehicle. It just really alleviates having to pursue cars or create any danger. On the bottom, there is a video of the handheld unit that it's like a little air gun. It makes no noise. And it shoots a GPS that sticks right to the back of the vehicle. At that point, officers can kind of back off. We don't need to follow it. We don't need to keep it in sight. We can actually just follow it onto a map until it stops. It was endorsed by the ACLU. This is a letter they wrote endorsing it, believing it did not impede on privacy. Obviously, it was a stolen motor vehicle. You do not have an expectation of privacy on a stolen motor vehicle until it was used responsibly, and they did write some letters to endorse it. So that's it. Those are two items with the Project Safe Neighborhood Grant. We're looking to purchase that Vigilant LPR data that is commercially gathered, and that Star Chase system, buying one small unit as a test. Some cities, I know New Haven just bought, I think, like 100 of them to outfit all their cars. We were looking to kind of just test one, again, with the hopes of cutting down on pursuit of vehicles, cutting down on crashes. We all know all the stuff that goes on when you're trying to stop a occupied stolen motor vehicle. And that was it. Chief, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add, Chief Hall.
No, that was it. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you, Sergeant. When would the police department look to purchase these two packages, and how long would it take for it to be implemented?
So as soon as the funding is available, I would have to sole source. We'd have to sole source one of them. No, I'm sorry, I'd have to get competitive quotes for both of those items. I would sole source both of them because nobody else makes those products. So the sole sources would be obviously appropriate for both those items. So really it's just a matter of funding being available and going through procurement with them as fast as I can make that move.
So is that procurement process, as far as the RFP, will that be issued under the procurement division of the city or through the police department?
It would not have to go out to bid. It would just have to be because they are under the $25,000 bid limit. So they would just have to get competitive quotes. I would still sole source it because nobody else can give me a competitive quote on those because they're the ones that make them. It would be done through the police department. I would initiate those purchases with procurement.
Okay, thank you. That was going to be my next follow-up question. Thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. Question about the Star Chase. You talked a lot about stolen cars. Could that cause an increase in enforcement of running red lights? Because I've heard from folks in the department that there's sort of an informal policy that when a car runs a red light, not to give chase. And of course, I think it's a thing we see a bunch around the city is cars run red lights, and it feels really dangerous to folks. I just don't know, practically speaking, if this would be deployed in that circumstance or not.
It would not, because you would still have an expectation of privacy on your vehicle location. You run a red light, yes, it is a ticketable offense, but we don't have a right to GPS track your vehicle at that point. Different than a stolen motor vehicle where you've taken somebody else's property, you have no right to privacy. We could GPS locate your vehicle in that instance.
Thank you.
Council President. No, she had her hand raised. Okay, any other questions for our police department? None? All right, the chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we send it with a favorable recommendation.
Motion's been made by Councilman Mitchell for favorable recommendation. I will second it. Any of the discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it. This item is passed. Back to council with a favorable recommendation. There is an item I actually forgot to inquire of Chief Howell and Sergeant Mastriani. What is the process of requiring a crossing guard at an intersection of a school that currently does not have a crossing guard? And I know the crossing guards are under the Board of Ed.
Yeah, so it would require meeting with one of my deputy chiefs to discuss the need, and we would assess it, whether or not there's a need for a crossing guard at a particular location. That's okay. So we can work it out with the principal, and I believe it's Deputy Chief Watson that would have these discussions. Do you have a particular school in mind?
Yes, HMTCA. Right there on the.
Also Batchelder.
Okay.
Also McDonough. Also
Okay.
McDonough Wilson.
Okay, well.
Okay, so I see where this is going, so.
But HM, I would tell you, I've received a phone call from a concerned parent, and this has been talked about with the PTO, that over at HMTCA, there's a need, even though it does have a high school, you do have non-high school children, middle school that is, and there's a need for a crossing guard because they are afraid that a child crossing the street around Brownell and Broad Street, in those areas, that a child is going to get hit because there's no crossing guard at those intersections.
Okay, so you have a contact for my deputy chief to speak with?
Well, on the parents, I can get that.
Okay.
And I'll provide you with that contact.
Thank you.
And Chief, you said it's Deputy Chief Watson, so I won't bother you now about New Britain Ave by Batchelder, but I can talk to that person.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
I believe Councilman LeBron will get you a contact for McDonough School.
Oh, yes, I got a few this morning.
All right.
I offer no guarantees. I offer discussion. My disclaimer.
We have strong recommendations.
Absolutely.
Seeing that we have no other business to discuss for this Quality Life and Public Safety Committee meeting, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening. Take care.